Acadiana, and thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate and the larger Advocate News organization. They are providing great quality journalism to our state and our region every day, and we are glad to provide you this community service of reading their printed journalism so that you can access it even if you don't have time to sit down with a paper. We couldn't bring you this service without the generous volunteer efforts of our news readers, our great source of volunteer news readers. This morning, we are graced with the presence of Jen McFarland. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here to read the news. I have delayed us a little bit by some technical snafus, so I'm just going to get out of the way and listen on Cypress Street. Thanks again so much, Jen.
My pleasure. Good morning, everyone. The first article today is Cajuns cancel game after Spike forces shutdown. 33 football players in school safety protocol by Kevin Foote. The number 24 ranked University of Louisiana at Lafayette Raging Cajuns football team was forced to cancel Saturday's 1 p.m. non-conference home game against Central Arkansas after a spike in positive coronavirus tests since its last game. UL Lafayette Director of Athletics Brian Maggard said 33 athletes are in the school's COVID-19 safety protocol. About half of them have tested positive, he said. The other half have been identified as having been exposed to someone who tested positive. Lafayette Parish, as of Tuesday, recorded 639 new confirmed cases in the past week, tripling the 7-day caseload recorded on November 10, according to state data. Lafayette's rate of case growth far outpaced the other 6 parishes with populations of more than 200,000. While those parishes all showed significant increases, none of the increases exceeded 100% over the previous week. Lafayette increased by 207%. COVID-19 cases have about doubled in recent weeks at UL Lafayette, a campus spokesperson said, reflecting a rapid increase in cases around the region. The UL Lafayette dashboard on the coronavirus showed more than 80 cases for the week of November 8th and 55 for the week of November 15th. That includes cases among athletes, the general student population, and faculty. We really came to the conclusion Tuesday evening that it would warrant us to stop practicing and shut things down for the week, which led us to having to cancel on Saturday, Maggard said. Because of symptoms players showed Monday, as well as positive tests from the week before, Maggard said the athletic department elected to administer an impromptu antigen COVID-19 test to get a gauge on it, and we saw some spikes in positive tests. The team then did its routine COVID-19 tests on Wednesday, but the results were not available at the time of Maggard's virtual news conference. Maggard said the athletic department has seen a rise in positive tests, including out-of-season sports, compared to September and October. It's probably indicative of our society right now, he said. Nationally, we are seeing an uptick in cases. Whether it's the community of Lafayette, the region, the state, our campus, our athletics program, I just think it's indicative of what's happening both locally, regionally, and nationally. Campus spokesman Eric Marin said UL Lafayette leaders anticipated a spike in cases late in the fall, which is why they decided to end the semester on the day before Thanksgiving. We knew that as the weather got colder, people would be driven outside and more likely to catch the flu or the coronavirus. Should that be inside? He said, campus leaders said they did not want to study cases, campus leaders said they did not want students to bring cases home or return with cases to campus after the holiday. Marin said numbers are fluid, as people are added or removed daily from the list of cases. He said many students are quarantined, restricted to their apartments, if they are possibly exposed to someone with COVID-19. He said despite the spike in numbers, there are no plans to close the campus before November 25th, the last days for semester exams. Our students are aware of what's going on and how they have to be responsible. They are wearing masks. Lot of students taking extra measures, he said. We're part of the community, he added, explaining that as case numbers rise in the community, they will likely rise on campus. Maggard said he's confident the Cajuns would have met the Sun Belt's minimum player availability requirements to play a game. I am so sorry, guys. Despite Wednesday's test results. However, the one thing that can supersede that is if your local health officials tell you to stop activity, he said. So based on the total athletes affected, it was determined football operations must be shut down Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, preventing the team from preparing for Central Arkansas. Maggard said UL Lafayette hopes to return to practice Saturday. The Cajuns are 7-1 overall and 5-1 in Sun Belt play and clinched a spot in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game after beating South Alabama 38-10 on Saturday. The league's title game is scheduled for December 19th at the site of number 1 overall seed, which has not been determined. We're certainly disappointed in having to cancel Saturday's game against Central Arkansas, Maggard said. I know it was something our student athletes, our coaches, and certainly our fans were looking forward to. But to no surprise, the health and safety of our program is the priority. So unfortunately, we had to cancel. But we know we did it for the right reasons. Maggard said any potential makeup dates have not been discussed. Theoretically, if UL does get to play the University at Louisiana at Monroe on November 28th as scheduled, the December 12th date could be open to make up Saturday's cancellation with Central Arkansas. With UL Lafayette now battling COVID-19 obstacles and ULM already having 2 games to make up in December due to COVID-19, many are concerned if the Cajuns' trip to Monroe on November 28th will be made up. Maggard said it's too early to know, but December 12th would be the makeup date if ULM game isn't played. Maggard said the decision to inform the public Wednesday that the Cajuns didn't practice Tuesday was routine procedure. We wanted to make sure we had all the answers to our questions in place first before we make any type of public announcement, he said. We'd do that in any situation. From a safety protocol standpoint, when you look at social distancing requirements, I'm not convinced that people in the stands were necessarily exposed to our student athletes, given the proximity they are to the team. With that said, Maggard said, my encouragement to anybody is if you have any reason for concern, please go get tested. In other coronavirus-related athletic news, UL Lafayette's men's basketball coach, Bob Marlin, revealed Wednesday his team's regular season opener against Xavier next Wednesday won't be played. UL Lafayette's new opener is now slated for November 28th against Loyola of New Orleans. Likewise, the women's basketball team was scheduled to play UNO on Wednesday. That game, along with the November 30th game against Loyola, have been canceled due to positive tests and contact tracing within the Ragin' Cajuns program. We take it day by day as we get into the season, and it's no different with football. In any game, you have 2 opponents, the team you're playing and COVID. Maggard said, you try to beat them both every week. Next article is State Lawsuit Seeks Public Access to Lake Martin by Megan Wyatt. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries took the first step this week in restoring public access at Lake Martin. The state agency filed a lawsuit Monday in the 16th Judicial District Court against a group of landowners who earlier this year blocked access to the lake's public boat launch. It's something activists and parish leaders have wanted for years. Intervention from the agency that's tasked with maintaining the public body of water. But Wildlife and Fisheries has been hesitant to take any action while another lawsuit between parish government and a business owner at the lake worked its way through the court system. Last week, the Louisiana Supreme Court put an end to the earlier lawsuit when it declined to hear a case between the St. Martin Parish government and Brian Champagne, who operates 2 businesses on the shore of the lake that violate parish zoning law. A district judge ruled in 2019 in favor of Champagne, and a state appeals court narrowly agreed with the lower court's ruling in an August opinion. We're disappointed that the Supreme Court declined to entertain some of the vested rights issues that were raised in this litigation, as well as some of the public trust doctrine issues that we presented to the lower courts, St. Martin Parish President Chester Cedars said. I thought that those were very interesting issues and questions of law that I think needed to be addressed. Although the 2019 lawsuit did not directly involve the state or other properties along Lake Martin, it indirectly complicated the relationship between private landowners, parish government, and wildlife and fisheries, all of whom have expressed concern over liabilities and responsibilities at the body of water. Some property owners put up barricades and ropes along the lake shore to limit public access to Lake Martin as the first lawsuit played out, citing concerns over personal liability after the district judge ruled in favor of Champaign swamp tour businesses operating in an area long ago designated as a public right-of-way. Now the state's new lawsuit, which names 11 people as defendants, could provide clarity for stakeholders at Lake Martin. The lawsuit specifically asked the court to declare that the state owns the public right-of-way at Lake Martin, or has a servitude at the traditional public right-of-way for public access to the lake. It also asked the court to declare that the state owns the boat launch and associated structures, and that they're for public use. Another ask is for an order that would prohibit the defendants from blocking public access to and use of the boat launch. The issue needs to be resolved, Caesars said, and at this point it seems that the litigation will hopefully bring this question of public use of the lake to a more expeditious conclusion, one way or another. The parish will assist in any way it can. The 11 people named as defendants in the lawsuit are heirs to the property where the boat launch is located. Clifford Hebert, whose family owns the largest share of the land in question, expressed mixed opinions about the lawsuit. Hebert had not yet read the lawsuit or consulted with an attorney when contacted Wednesday afternoon by a reporter. "This is the truth. I'm not happy," Hebert said. "I don't see why the public should be happy, but the public is not aware of what went down here." Hebert and the other property owners announced in February plans to close the boat launch, citing concerns about upkeep and liability. The public boat launch was constructed more than 50 years ago on their property with taxpayer funds through a mutual agreement that allowed the state and public access to the lake via the property. On March 1st, they barricaded access to the boat launch. At that time, another person who owns a share of property said the family would eventually make the necessary repairs to the boat launch, reopen it to the public, and charge boaters to launch. No one has announced a timeline for the project or actively worked on the launch in more than 8 months since the closure. Hebert said the launch should never have closed, just as Champaign never should have been allowed to construct permanent businesses on the lake side of the levee. He should not have been allowed to do what he did, Hebert said. "We shouldn't have been allowed to close the landing in the first place. Why wait until he won the lawsuit to deal with us closing the landing? It's been closed for a good long while." Alternatively, or in addition to the other asks of the court, the lawsuit is seeking to acquire the boat launch property from the family members through expropriation. A spokesperson for Wildlife and Fisheries did not return messages left Wednesday by phone and email for this story. Those who own adjacent land along Lake Martin have viewed the state's lawsuit favorably overall, but they're also eyeing the possibility of the state purchasing the land. If that happens, some of the other landowners have expressed that they too want a cut of that deal. "I'm glad to see it's coming to a head," Hebert said, "but it should be the same for all the landowners around the lake, not just us. We haven't been making money on the landing. Others haven't been making money, but someone has been rewarded for thinking he owns the lake. The state should have taken control of this a long time ago." Next article, a reason to go out shopping. State offers sales tax break on Friday and Saturday, by Mark Ballard. In something akin to a secret Santa, Louisiana announced with little fanfare that consumers making purchases on Friday and Saturday won't have to pay the state's 4.45% sales tax. That's on purchases up to $2,500 per store, including layaways and online buying. The sales tax holiday doesn't cover vehicle purchases or meals, and local jurisdictions will still charge local sales taxes. The bill creating the one-time tax break for consumers whizzed through 2 committees in both chambers in a total of 11 minutes, 14 seconds of debate, including votes on 5 changes to the legislation's wording. Nobody voted against House Bill 26, and Governor John Bell Edwards signed it swiftly. The Department of Revenue issued the regulations on how the holiday would operate on Monday. House Speaker Clay Schexnayder sponsored House Bill 26, but never spoke on its behalf. State Representative Melinda White, Democrat of Bogalusa, handled the legislation in the House, saying the measures would help residents and businesses recovering from Hurricanes Laura and Delta and coping with the coronavirus pandemic. This is a good bill for our people, said Denham Springs Republican Senator Rogers Pope, who handled the legislation in the state Senate. It came to me from everything with the economy due to COVID and also the hurricanes. Many constituents reached out to me about a little help for local small businesses, Schexnayder said on Wednesday in a text. Though the bill that became Act 16 was drafted on the instructions of the Gonzales Republican, nearly the entire legislature signed as co-sponsors. Kiplinger, a Washington, D.C.-based publisher on taxes, calculated that buying a $1,000 television Friday or Saturday will save Louisiana consumer $44.50 in sales taxes. Local sales taxes, which vary depending on jurisdiction, will still be charged. The tax holiday legislation came as something of a surprise to the lobbyists representing retailers and small businesses at the state legislature. It wasn't something we pushed, said Don Starnes, state director for the National Federation of Independent Business Louisiana, but we were delighted. People love not paying taxes any chance they get. This gives a reason to go out shopping. Retail sales fell off the cliff when businesses had to close and people were ordered to stay at home in hopes of stanching the growth of COVID-19. Starnes said NFIB analysis showed retail sales rebounded and have now surpassed pre-pandemic levels. But she noted that traditionally the last 3 months of the year are when most retailers make the bulk of their money. Retailers this Christmas season are hoping to make up some of the ground lost earlier this year and are doing so as another serious wave is fast increasing the number of COVID-19 cases in Louisiana. The sales tax holiday will be added to next weekend's sales, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday, during which prices are reduced in hopes of enticing consumers to spend. Gene Saturn, Senior General Manager for the Mall of Louisiana, said the Baton Rouge Shopping Center is busy ramping up for Christmas. Any extra sales that come as a result of the sales tax holiday are icing on the cake. So far, Mall of Louisiana stores aren't doing anything special for the sales tax holiday, and the center will have normal hours this weekend, Saturn said. Frank Quinn, General Manager of the Outlet Collection at Riverwalk in New Orleans, said he's not forecasting any increased sales this weekend at the shopping mall as a result of the sales tax holiday. Normally, about half of the shoppers at the outlet mall are tourists, and those people aren't aware of the sales tax holiday, he said. The holiday is expected to keep about $4.5 million from being delivered to the state treasury this weekend, according to the Legislative Fiscal Office. Louisiana once had 3 sales tax holidays, an annual one, usually in the weeks before school starts, one for the Second Amendment that occurred before hunting season, and one for hurricane preparedness at the start of hurricane season. Together, the 3 cost the state about $1.5 million in unrealized sales tax revenues, the Revenue Department reported for 2018. The legislature and the governor suspended the sales tax holidays as part of a deal to help balance the budget 2 years ago. 17 states are having sales tax holidays this year. The next article is LSU official may have violated policies over incident. In text sent to Osbury, former LSU football player admitted to hitting girlfriend. By Andrea Gallo and Brooks Kubina. When an LSU football player admitted to hitting his girlfriend in a text he sent to Executive Deputy Director of Athletics Verge Osbury, both university and federal policies required that Osbury act on that information and report it to others. But after Osbury called him, the wide receiver retracted his confession, and Osbury didn't pursue the matter further. Experts say he may have violated the federal civil rights law that protects students from discrimination on the basis of sex, which includes sexual violence. In addition, he may have whiffed on a requirement that he alert police, according to legal experts on sexual assault cases on college campuses. The text messages first came to light Monday, when USA Today published a scathing investigation into LSU's failures to properly investigate sexual misconduct, including several cases involving student athletes. The Advocate received records Tuesday showing Osbury was aware that then wide receiver Drake Davis had struck his girlfriend, a tennis player, before the university's Title IX office or police launched investigations. Osbury, who is well known in Baton Rouge, has sat on both state and local governing boards and commissions and is a member of the search committee for LSU's next president. She's trying to go to compliance for me hitting her. She's trying to get me kick off the team, Davis texted Osbury on April 14th, 2018, according to the police report. I went over there to get my stuff. She got mad that I wouldn't talk to her. She started to hit me and I hit her in the stomach, which is not good. And I walked out. In an interview Wednesday, Osbury said he immediately called Davis after receiving the text message, which squares with phone logs police later referenced in their investigation, which showed 6-minute call. Before then, Osbury said he had taken Davis under his wing and tried to mentor him, which is why they were in frequent communication. But Osbury said when he confronted Davis about his text, Davis assured him he had not hit his girlfriend, saying they were simply arguing about her refusing to leave. Osbury said he advised Davis to call police. When he told me on the phone that he did not hit her, that's the information I had at the time, Osbury said. That's why I made the decision I made at the time. Now, hindsight 2020, figuring out what's going on in today's world, yes, I would have picked up the phone and said, you know what? We're going to call 911 and figure it out. Not only did Osbury not call police himself, he didn't report the allegation to LSU's Title IX office, nor did he follow up with Davis about the incident. He said he did not think Title IX was applicable because the tennis player was not enrolled at LSU at the time. Monica Beck, an attorney who specializes in Title IX and sexual violence cases for Fireberg National Law Group, said the tennis player's status as an LSU student did not diminish Osbury's reporting obligation. It still should have been reported to the Title IX office, Beck told the Advocate. The fact that a student admittedly engaged in egregious dating violence shows that he could pose a harm to other students as well. Beck said law enforcement should have been notified as well. Eventually, a different LSU employee reported the abuse. That was Miriam Seeger, the senior associate athletic director, whom the woman contacted after seeking medical attention. Seeger filed a first Title IX complaint on April 26, 2018, a second one on June 18, 2018, and a police report on August 16, 2018. Osbury acknowledged participating in a Title IX interview related to Davis, but could not recall when it happened. LSU spokesman Ernie Ballard said the handling of these allegations will be included in a review that law firm Hush Blackwell is conducting for the university. LSU hired the law firm to investigate Title IX policies and to look at how past allegations have been handled in response to the USA Today article. I'm very comfortable in my decision and what I did, Osbury said Wednesday. Very comfortable in the ways I acted and reported and things of that nature. I have no worry about anything happening to my career. The only thing I would like to have is my name. Make sure it's clear out there and that I wasn't a person who tried to hide things or hurt victims or hurt anybody. I've never done that and I never will. But experts say Osbury's failure to act did cause harm. When school officials receive reports of the physical violence, the sexual violence, sexual misconduct, they often ignored it. And while they ignored it, it continued, said Shiwali Patel, the Director of Justice for Student Survivors and Senior Counsel at the National Women's Law Center. So there are just gross violations of Title IX that happen over and over again at LSU. Davis's abuse of the tennis player, whom he dated off and on, was no secret, according to a 2018 LSU Police Department investigation that included interviews with coaches, friends, and others who knew the pair. The tennis player told the police she had started dating Davis in January 2017, and that the 6'6", 220-pound wide receiver had attacked her at least 4 separate times during their relationship. She said Davis punched her in the stomach for the first time in May 2017 when she sought the return of some personal items. Then in April 2018, she said he punched her so hard that she was left with a fractured rib, and it hurt to do any kind of physical activity. The victim provided a photograph of the bruise mark taken after she was punched in the stomach, LSU police wrote. The marking in that picture is on her left side. It appears as if individual finger marks of the suspect is visible in the bruising. This was the incident Davis referenced in his text to Osbury. Dating violence is covered under LSU's sexual harassment policies, which say that any university administrator or supervisor who is a recipient of a complaint or report of possible violation of the policy will immediately notify the Office of Human Resource Management. The university's violence-free workplace policy has similar language. Employees are to report to the Office of Human Resource Management or the LSU Police Department, or both where applicable. All threats or incidents of violent behavior in the workplace which they observe or of which they are informed, the policy reads. Osbury may have also been required to report it to police, as Beck pointed out, under the Federal Clery Act, which includes requirements for university officials. At the time, I never knew it was a violent, volatile relationship, Osbury said. I just thought it was a boyfriend-girlfriend. They live off campus. She wouldn't leave his apartment, and called the police was the best thing for him. My error was I believed his story. I took the kid for his word. Even when people follow reporting rules with allegations of sexual assault and misconduct, complaints often remain buried without proper investigation, said Elizabeth Taylor, a Temple University professor who studies sexual assault and harassment within athletic organizations. Taylor said in many problematic cases, the athletes are multiple-time perpetrators who learn that if they report their wrongdoings to the right person, they'll be allowed to continue. She agreed that Osbury should have reported the incident to the Title IX office and police. He's admitting to domestic violence, and they really are just saying, it's okay for now, don't let it happen again, Taylor said. Slap on the wrist type of thing, and essentially just hoping that it will go away, and that he'll change his behavior without any sort of intervention. And we know from research that is not what happens. Indeed, Davis grew more violent after the April 2018 incident. Still in pain from her rib fracture weeks later, the tennis player went to get checked out by a doctor and reported what happened to an athletic trainer and Seeger in late April. Seeger quickly filed a Title IX complaint, but did not report it to police until 4 months later. In the meantime, Davis choked her when they were in his car, she told police. And then in June 2018, she told police that he entered her apartment, tried to strangle her, punched her stomach, and yanked an earring out of her earlobe, leaving a trail of blood. Police went to the scene but made no arrest. I might kill you, Davis texted her. Osbury said Wednesday that he did not know of the violence in their relationship despite the April text until June, because that was when police went to the scene of an incident. At that point, he said he no longer communicated with Davis about the relationship, though he said he continued to check in on Davis's grades and other activities, as he does with all players. I started seeing a pattern, Osbury said. It was almost like I was being conned. It wasn't the truth. It wasn't the right information that he gave me. What was really happening? Universities can face major repercussions for failing to properly respond to Title IX complaints, especially those that involve partner violence within dating relationships. The University of Utah recently agreed to pay a $10.5 million settlement to the family of Lauren McCluskey, whose boyfriend allegedly shot and killed her after she had reported him to university police for stalking and harassing her. Her family argued that the university did not take her complaints seriously enough. McCluskey's boyfriend was not a student at the university. And in another recent case, the Nebraska State College system agreed to pay out $900,000 amid 2 lawsuits that alleged they had not done enough to prevent dating violence that led to a softball player's suicide. The settlement numbers reflect the importance of properly responding to those kinds of complaints, said Beck, whose law firm is pursuing Title IX claims against LSU in another civil suit related to the fraternity hazing death of freshman Max Groover in 2017. When universities fail to do so, the consequences are life and death. Patel also argued that LSU's Title IX problems highlight the problems with recent changes to that federal law spearheaded by U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. Patel said the changes would limit the scope of people on campuses who are required to report complaints of sexual harassment. Patel is part of a major lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Education over changes to Title IX. LSU police finally booked Davis on August 17, 2018, on counts of second-degree battery based on the 4 incidents. They arrested him again the next month once they found out he was violating court orders by continuing to see and assault the woman. Last year, Davis pleaded guilty to 2 counts of battery on a dating partner and 1 count of violation of a protective order. But a state judge suspended most of the 18-month prison sentence he handed Davis. Instead, the judge put him on probation and ordered him to stay away from the woman. LSU expelled Davis in July 2019. Davis was arrested again last year in a new battery case, this time involving a different woman. He enrolled last year at Southern University, but did not join this football team. Next article, police, 2 dead in murder-suicide. Older brother may have saved siblings, Karen Crow chief says, by Katie Gagliano. Karen Crow police officers believe the 18-year-old victim injured in a domestic violence murder-suicide may have saved his younger siblings. The shooting happened Monday evening at a home on Meadowdale Drive. Police responded to a report of domestic disturbance about 7 p.m. and were met at the home's door by 3 children, ages 14, 12, and 11. The 14-year-old told police what occurred between her parents. A statement from Karen Crow Police Chief David Anderson said. The Lafayette Parish Coroner's Office confirmed James Manley, 40, and Faith Manley, 38, died in the incident, with James Manley shooting his wife before turning a gun on himself, according to preliminary autopsy findings. Anderson said in a phone interview Wednesday, officers believe the couple's 18-year-old son, who was shot in the back during the incident, may have protected his younger siblings, who were able to hide in a bedroom and were physically uninjured. We have reason to believe that he is the one that saved their lives, the chief said. The 18-year-old has since been released from the hospital and is in good condition while recovering with his siblings, who were taken in by family members, Anderson said. The department has not released full details in the case because of the continuing investigation, he said. Local churches where Faith Manley was a member, friends and family members have begun to post tributes to her online, while also drawing awareness to a GoFundMe established to cover funeral expenses and needs for her 4 surviving children. Court filings in the 15th Judicial District Court showed Faith Manley had received a protective order against her husband September 17th that was valid for 1 year. The order states James Manley was barred from going within 100 yards of his wife, their children, the Meadowdale Drive residence, and Ochsner Lafayette General Medical Center, where Faith Manley worked as a respiratory therapist. He was also barred from possessing a firearm and was ordered to turn over any weapons to law enforcement. In the restraining order, Faith Manley wrote that a divorce with her husband was pending. In the petition, he's listed as living at an address in Palmetto. On one occasion, Faith Manley wrote that her husband sent her photos of a noose he hung in the Palmetto home. Faith Manley said James Manley would also monitor her and the children, taking photos and videos of them every day. She wrote their children are afraid he will come while I am at work and try to take them. She said in August he barged into her bathroom while she bathed, grabbed her face, and accused her of seeing someone else while shouting vulgar things and issuing threats. James Manley continued to force his way into the home as she tried to lock him out, Faith Manley wrote. On other occasions, James would come to the house and shout to be let inside after Faith said she changed the home's alarm code, she said. She described him as unpredictable. The respiratory therapist said her estranged husband had previously admitted to drug use. Faith Manley also wrote that her husband was on parole for setting fire to their home, while the family was inside when they lived in Avoyelles Parish. A staff member with the Avoyelles Parish Clerk of Court confirmed James Earl Manley pleaded guilty to a charge of simple arson in November 2017. The arson itself occurred in August 2016, court records said. The next article is group launches recall petition efforts. Baldwin Police Chief DA targeted in death of 15-year-old by Katie Gagliano. Activists with the Village 337 announced an effort to recall several local elected officials Tuesday night, including 2 law enforcement leaders they cited for failures in the investigation into the death of Kawan Bobby Charles. The Village has actively called attention to the case of the Black 15-year-old who was reported missing to the Baldwin Police Department by his family October 30th and was later found dead in a field near the Iberia Parish village of Lauraville on November 3rd. Preliminary autopsy findings suggest drowning as the cause of death. Family attorneys and supporters say law enforcement agencies have not treated Bobby's family with empathy, were not committed to the case when the teenager was first reported missing, and in the days since his discovery failed to be forthcoming with new information and communicate well with his family. Attention on the case, both locally and nationally, intensified after a graphic photo the family says was taken while confirming Bobby's identity with authorities circulated online. The image was shown beside an image of Emmett Till, the Black Chicago 14-year-old who was murdered by white supremacists while visiting family in Mississippi in 1955. Devin Norman, president of the Village 337, said the group is organizing recall campaigns for Baldwin Police Chief Harry Boo Boo Smith and 16th Judicial District Attorney Beaufil Bo Dewey, who serves Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes. Dewey was reelected to a second term November 3rd. We are here to declare that we will keep our promise that if we don't get it, we will shut it down. We will keep our promise that until there is justice, there will be no peace. We will keep our promise that we will not sleep until these mothers and these grieving fathers get the justice that they deserve, he said. Norman said the group, based in Lafayette, has lined up local electors to sponsor the petitions in each district, and they're organizing a canvassing campaign to knock on doors and spread the word about petitions. Norman said the petitions will be forthcoming. A recall petition for Smith will focus on the chief's lack of leadership in Bobby's investigation. Norman cited comments from Baldwin's mayor, Abel Prejean, who said that he has not seen Smith on the job in about 9 months as a sign of Smith's negligence as chief. I would suggest the dignified thing for him to do is resign, Norman said during a news conference at the Gethsemane Community Center. The Baldwin Police Department's response in the immediate aftermath of Bobby's disappearance has been a point of contention. Assistant Police Chief Samuel Wise III said in a phone interview Tuesday, his officers searched for Bobby the night he was reported missing and entered his information into the National Crime Information Center to alert other agencies about his case. He said the disappearance was not referred to Louisiana State Police for either an Amber Alert or an Endangered Missing Child Advisory because of the lack of available evidence at the time. He said it was unclear what had transpired with Bobby. Wise said later video evidence points to Bobby leaving of his own free will with a friend and the friend's mother. The video released by the Baldwin Police Department appears to show Bobby in the front yard of his father's home around 1:30 p.m. on October 30th. He then chases after a passing car. Minutes later, the car returns to the home. Bobby, another teen, and a woman exit the vehicle and enter the home's backyard. They return to the vehicle and drive away soon after. Norman pushed back against the idea that Bobby consented when leaving his father's house because he was a minor and wasn't able to give consent. His parents did not give him permission for him to travel, and the situation should be treated as an abduction, he said. The village believes Dewey is accountable for not intervening in the case. The district attorney has the authority to press charges and should have been more aggressive where local law enforcement lagged, pursuing a case against the teenager and mother who picked Bobby up from his father's home without permission as a start, Norman said. To recall an elected official, a formal petition must be filed with Louisiana Secretary of State's office with signatures and proof of residence for the petition committee chairman and vice chairman before signatures can be collected. Once filed, The petitioners have 180 days to get the necessary signatures, or 90 days if the represented area has 1,000 or few electors. The number of electors or people eligible to vote in the area the official serves determines how many signatures petitioners must acquire. In areas with 1,000 qualified electors, the petition must be signed by 40% of the electors, 33.33% in areas of 1,000 to 24,999 electors, 25% in areas of 25,000 to 99,999 electors, and 20% if there are 100,000 electors or more, according to the Louisiana Secretary of State's website. If the petitioners collect the needed signatures, a future election would be set where voters in the officials' represented area would vote to either recall them or leave them in office. If recalled, the office holder would be removed and a special election would be scheduled to replace them. The group also announced 2 recall efforts unrelated to Bobby's death. Norman said the village is seeking to recall Acadia Parish Sheriff K.P. Gibson and Crowley Alderman Lyle Fogelman. In October, the group had a run-in with Fogelman at a Crowley Board of Aldermen meeting while drawing attention to an Acadia Parish Sheriff's Office arrest they say involved police brutality. The Gibson recall will focus on the sheriff's handling of the arrest of Edward Troy Yoakum Jr. on October 11th, and contradictory accounts from the sheriff and Yoakum's family about the level of communication achieved with Yoakum's family. Yoakum suffered injuries to his face during his arrest. Gibson said they were the result of Yoakum hitting the pavement after being shocked with a stun gun, an incident he determined fell within department use of force policies after review. Norman said Fogelman should be removed from office after the alderman took his pointer finger and dragged it across his throat in a gesture to demonstrators at the Crowley Board of Aldermen meeting on October 20th. Fogelman said the gesture was an act of frustration and a nonverbal request for the group to cease and go home, but Norman and others maintained it was intended as a threat against them. The next story is Breaux Bridge Chamber Director to be honored. United Way event to recognize Tina Begnaud by Adam Daigle. Tina Begnaud will be honored during the United Way of Acadiana's Women's Who's Who. Let me start this again. Tina Begnaud will be honored during the United Way of Acadiana's Women Who Mean Business Awards next month. Begnaud, the executive director of the Breaux Bridge Area Chamber of Commerce and director of tourism for the city of Breaux Bridge, is among 10 women who will be recognized during a virtual ceremony on the United Way of Acadiana's Facebook page at 6:30 p.m. December 9th. Begnaud is a past member of the chamber and former board secretary and president before being named the agency's director. She was also elected to the city council in Breaux Bridge, the first woman elected to the council. As director of the Chamber and Tourism, Begnaud attends events statewide as a representative of the city. She is also involved in other organizations, is a formal member of the Civic Club de Pont-Breaux as the group's secretary, and worked with the committee to paint the bridge that serves as the gateway to the city's downtown area. Begnaud was a local vendor at the Breaux Bridge Crawfish Festival for 35 years. She also likes to take motorcycle rides with her husband and admitted she will never retire because she loves her job too much, she said. When you get to do something you love day in and day out, it's not a job, she said. It's an adventure. Next story. New Orleans schools get virus testing grant. City part of initiative to identify asymptomatic cases by Della Hassel. In an effort to keep kids in school as the rising number of coronavirus cases has authorities cautioning that New York might soon experience the wave seen in other parts of the U.S., the city has become one of 5 nationwide to join a program to expand COVID-19 testing among students and school staff to detect it in asymptomatic people, those who have contracted the potentially deadly virus but do not show symptoms. NOLA Public Schools will use $775,000 in funding, most coming through a joint grant from the Rockefeller Foundation and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for additional testing inside schools, officials announced Tuesday. The new initiative comes on top of district-wide efforts already in place through the New Orleans Department of Health, Ochsner Health System, and Children's Hospital of New Orleans to give families access to rapid tests through urgent care facilities and a handful of mobile testing sites set up throughout the city. In October, the district extended the testing, which had been reserved for people with symptoms or close contacts of people known to have cases, to asymptomatic students, teachers, and staff. But officials said the Rockefeller Foundation grant, together with $100,000 from the Greater New Orleans Foundation, will be important in keeping infection rates inside public schools low by making more tests readily available in schools through the end of the 2020-2021 school year. We made safely returning our children to schools a priority milestone for continued gradual reopening of our city, Mayor Latoya Cantrell said in a release announcing the new initiative. We will continue to make the health and safety of our children a top priority. The testing announcement comes at the same time Cantrell warned on social media that New Orleans was at a code red level of COVID-19 warning, and that the residents should treat everyone like they have the virus because of extensive community spread. Orleans Parish has had more than 14,500 COVID-19 cases, the third most in the state behind Jefferson and East Baton Rouge parishes. In a statement, NOLA Public Schools Superintendent Henderson Lewis said the district's combined testing efforts had been integral to the preservation of in-person learning, and in the future would be key to continuing with the district's reopening plan that ties in-campus learning to infection rates throughout the city. Pre-K through fourth grade students have been back in the classroom full-time since September 14th. Students in grades 5 to 12 began phasing into a hybrid schedule on October 12th, with some days on campus and others virtual. About 40% of families district-wide have decided to remain fully virtual, but officials said they expected that number to dwindle in the next semester. It remains unclear when all students might be able to return full-time, or if outbreaks will force schools to pivot back to virtual-only learning, but district officials hope they can stave off the latter. School districts elsewhere in the country, including Illinois, Massachusetts, Virginia, and New York City, have reverted back to distance learning due to a recent surge of coronavirus cases. National outlets have warned parents around the country to brace for another round of mass school closures. As we forge ahead into this school year, expanded COVID-19 testing remains a key part of our reopening and remaining open strategy, Lewis said. Recently, New Orleans became one of 5 cities or states to agree to guidelines laid out by Duke Margolis Center for Health Policy, Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, and the Rockefeller Foundation, according to Dr. Rajiv J. Shah, president of the Rockefeller Foundation. A report from the organizations titled Risk Assessment and Testing Considerations for Reducing SARS-CoV-2 Transmission in K-12 Schools calls for creating an early warning system, as studies indicate most children are asymptomatic or only have mild symptoms, which make it difficult to use temperature checks or other more obvious screening methods to identify potential cases. To help catch cases early, the Rockefeller Foundation helped fund real-time testing pilots in New Orleans, Los Angeles, Louisville, Rhode Island, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. In New Orleans, money could fund an additional 20,000 antigen tests so the school district and its health partners can implement a pilot program for students and staff within 1 to 2 school settings, according to Rockefeller release about the program. The Rockefeller News release said screening would be done 2 times a week for students and school staff who would get gold standard PCR testing for positive antigen cases. District officials didn't immediately say if they would focus on 2 schools. Instead, district spokeswoman Taslin Alfonso said officials would create a customized plan for carrying out its testing based on risk assessments, community priorities, test performance, and communication, and that ultimately the program could lead to more routine screenings or surveillance. Officials said the Greater New Orleans Foundation would further the pilot efforts by donating $100,000 for more COVID-19 tests, health staffing, and increased data tracking to inform how to best marshal available resources. In a statement, Dr. Jennifer Aveno, the city's health director, said testing has become even more crucial as residents face colder winter months, which can help exacerbate respiratory illnesses and complicate COVID-19 cases. It is a linchpin in our effort to slow the spread of this virus, and it will be especially crucial to help us treat both COVID and the likely rise in flu cases this winter, Aveno said. Sorry for all the stumbling, guys. Next article. State police seeks assailants in October hit and run. State police said Wednesday that a driver who struck a woman on US 190 pulled over and removed damage from their car, but then drove away, leaving the woman critically injured at the scene. Now, troopers are asking the public's help to identify that driver and one other believed to be involved in the fatal hit and run. Troopers responded about 9:30 p.m. October 29th on US 190 east of LA 415 after Teresa Mathern of Baton Rouge was hit by more than one vehicle, said State Police spokesperson Taylor Scrantz. Mathern was walking in the eastbound lane when she was hit by several other vehicles, Scrantz said. She suffered fatal injuries and died at the scene. She had been trying to help other motorists who were involved in a previous crash, Scrantz said, adding that the drivers who struck her left the area. Scrantz said that troopers were able to determine that Mathern was first hit by a light-colored gold, tan, silver 2008 to 2012 Honda Accord. The driver of the Honda exited the roadway following the collision, stopped near a church along the road, and removed damaged parts from their car before driving away, according to video surveillance obtained by state police. The Honda Accord should have front passenger side damage to the bumper, hood, headlight assembly, and wheel well, Scrantz said. It may also have windshield damage. After she was hit by the Honda, Mathern was also struck by a 2013 to 2016 Chevrolet Malibu, which possibly suffered front bumper and undercarriage damage. Troopers are urging anyone with any information regarding this crash to contact Louisiana State Police Troop A at 225-754-8500. The next article is UL's Mitchell named to Senior Bowl roster. UL senior running back Elijah Mitchell has accepted an invitation to play in the Senior Bowl on January 30th in Mobile, Alabama. The game will be televised on the NFL Network. Mitchell has been one of the most productive running backs in program history, ranking 5th in career rushing touchdowns, which are 39, and 6th in yards rushing, 2,952. In 7 games played during his senior season, he leads all UL rushers with 563 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging 80.4 yards per contest. His best performance of the year came in UL's overtime win at Georgia State when he rushed the ball 16 times for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns, the second being the game winner. Men's basketball. UL adds 4-star recruit to class. Coach Bob Marlin added 4-star recruit Ty Harper to the program's early signing period class. Harper, a 6'6" combo guard, was rated as the number 6 overall recruit in California and the number 100 overall recruit nationally by ESPN. The native of Norcross, Georgia, who was the number 22 rated shooting guard in the country, joins Karen Crow's Joe Charles as signees for the 2020-2021 season. Harper, who averaged 15.5 points per game as a senior, helped Santa Clarita Christian to a 24-6 record, the 2020 CIF Southern Sectional Division II AA title, and a number 28 national ranking by Max Preps. Softball. Cajuns add Texas Twins to recruiting class. UL's banner 2021 recruiting class got another boost Tuesday with the addition of twins Jacqueline and Jessica Adams of Bryan High School in Texas. That signing of the Texas Twins increases the signing class to 12 players. The class was already ranked number 1 nationally by extra innings softball. Both sisters were listed among the website's Elite 100, giving the Cajuns 10 on that list. Jacqueline is a catcher first baseman who hit .346 with 61 RBIs in 89 career prep games. She was twice named as the defensive MVP in her district. She was a battery mate to her sister Jessica, who collected 47 wins and 414 strikeouts, in addition to 23 homers and 85 RBIs during her prep career. Jessica is also able to play a corner infield position. Jessica is a down ball pitcher who has a great ability to hit the bottom corners of the strike zone with great consistency, UL coach Jerry Glasgow said. She has also proven to be a very powerful hitter and consistently gets big hits in clutch moments. And to wrap it up today, we'll do some Today in History. Today is Thursday, November 19th, the 324th day of 2020. There are 42 days left in the year and only a week until Thanksgiving. Today's highlight in history. On November 19th, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln dedicated a national cemetery at the site of the Civil War battlefield of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. On this date in 1600, King Charles I of England was born in Dunfermline, Fife, Scotland. I probably butchered that. In 1850, Alfred Tennyson was invested as Britain's poet laureate. In 1919, the Senate rejected the Treaty of Versailles by a vote of 55 in favor, 39 against, short of the 2/3 majority needed for ratification. In 1942, during World War II, Russian forces launched their winter offensive against the Germans along the Don Front. In 1959, Ford Motor Company announced it was halting production of the unpopular Edsel. In 1969, Apollo 12 astronauts Charles Conrad and Alan Bean made the second manned landing on the moon. In 1977, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat became the first Arab leader to visit Israel. In 1985, President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail S. Gorbachev met for the first time as they began their summit in Geneva. In 1996, 14 people were killed when a commuter plane collided with a private plane in an airport in Quincy, Illinois. The United States vetoed UN Secretary General Boutros Boutros-Ghali bid for a second term. In 1997, Iowa seamstress Bobby McCaughey gave birth to the world's first set of surviving septuplets, 4 boys and 3 girls. In 2017, Charles Manson, the hippie cult leader behind the gruesome murders of actor Sharon Tate and 6 others in Los Angeles in 1969, died in a California hospital at the age of 83 after nearly a half-century in prison. And that will wrap it up for me today. Thank you so much for letting me stumble my way through the news. Please be safe this Thanksgiving. Wear a mask.